Hello everybody, this is Robert with Deep Thought Cycle Blog, and I'm getting ready to head home on my daily commute home. One of my favorite journeys, one of my favorite routes. And this route I'm specifically going to talk about, well, after I talk about this, I'll talk about other things, deep things. But I'm going to specifically talk about all the parts on this bike. And over the next weeks, I'm going to stop and I'm going to try to find some Chinese looking places for you, and I'll review every individual component. Okay? So let's go on a nice 31-kilometer ride. Now, you know, I have my camera tilted up, so I have to hope that you're not seeing the sky, because when I ride, I tend to look at the road, so I have to. If I don't tilt the camera up, you guys will just be looking at the road. But first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on my Bluetooth speaker. While I will be talking, I do like to turn on the music sometimes in the background. Now, I think I've talked about, I know I've done some reviews before of the bike and its components, but I think I misplaced the videos or something. So because we have a new playlist that's just about components and reviews and stuff, and that's going to be the main focus of this, is the entire bike review. I'm going to do it again, and I don't mind talking about bikes. So we have some new subscribers. Welcome everybody. It's been real busy the last 2 weeks, but I'll try to get some more videos up. Okay, so here we are out in front of one of the places where I teach at. And this is a Schwalbe Ogre, small frame. And I'm not only going to talk about components on this review, I'm going to talk about buying those components from China. And if you live in another country or you plan on going on touring, it might factor into, you know, what you have is not only about about the monetary cost, but the availability and the challenges in getting it into your location. Let me get my music set up here using VLC player and freeform music downloaded from WFMU's freeform site. As mentioned before, I'm going to go ahead and start my Garmin Fenix 3 bike computer. All my sensors are connected. I'm going to go here. No. Thanks. All right, thanks. Somebody asked me if I'm lost. My heart rate monitor battery is low. I knew I had some problems with the heart rate monitor. Okay, so beautiful day. Last day of the month. Before I do this review, I'd like to mention this month we've gone about 1,800 kilometers this month. A couple long days in this month. I did miss about a 100-kilometer ride on a Sunday, and maybe a 20 or 30-kilometer ride because the class was canceled. So I would have gone closer to 2,000. And the monthly challenge, I'm happy to admit, probably number 9 in China on Strava in the monthly challenge. For the age group 35 to 44 or something, like number 400 and something. Oh, look at these dogs pissing on the car. That's lovely. Lovely dogs. All right. So, you don't see dogs pissing on bikes. And you don't see bikes killing dogs. So, we're going to talk about those bike components and bike. Now, I should talk about my previous bike that I had, that I've ridden like about 25,000 kilometers. Oh, look there, we have 4 Lamborghinis, a black Tesla Model S, and our local repair shop. There it is. All right, here comes the Tesla. And speaking of Teslas, tomorrow it's going to be the Tesla release date. We're releasing information about the new Model 3. I like driving my bike, but if I had a car, I sure would like it to be a Tesla. There you go, there's a black Tesla P85D in China. See 2 or 3 a day. Okay, so my last bike that I had more than 20,000 kilometers on, it was a Gary Fisher 29-inch frame and cobia, and it's stock shocks, and I upgraded the driveline and the components and everything like that. It had some nice TK 540 Dtswiss rims. There were 36 holes, and it was an aluminum frame versus this steel frame, and it felt like the rear was a little bit more stiff and rigid than this Shirley that I'm on, but that may be due to my rim or due to my tire. I'm not sure. We're going to talk about that. So, why did I choose the Shirley Ogre to be my commuter? And for me, when I say commuter, I mean I really look to buy a single bike that I would ride the rest of my life, foreseeable life. Now, if I was overabundantly rich, I would have a titanium frame, perhaps a titanium Jones bike, but I really don't like to want, and I don't like to buy something that I feel like I got the wrong deal. So I'm happy with this frame. I ended up choosing a Shirley Ogre. And why did I choose a Shirley Ogre? Well, Gary Fisher sold out to Trek, and I have rode Gary Fisher bikes since 1992 or 1991. Long time. My very first mountain bike was a Bridgestone MB, I think it was MB3, I can't remember. And I remember having some my first clipless pedals on that bike. And then I upgraded Gary Fisher for many, many years. Always had the steel Gary Fishers, except for one aluminum. which I had in China. And I like the Gary Fishers because the top tube was long and it gave you a stretched out cockpit. And I really like that. And Trek buying Gary Fisher, you know, I'm not all about the multinational corporations that much. And the standard Trek frames seem to have a shorter top tube, which I did not like. I like the longer top tube to lay out more, which the Shirley does have. And I know that, you know, Salsa looks like they make some nice frames. Jones looks some nice frames I like. I don't like a tube that's so high and straight, like a road bike frame. You know, just picking my leg up over it. I much prefer the mountain bike style frame, which is what the Shirley Ogre is. Sure, I mean, if I mean, titanium you don't really need when you're always loaded up anyways. But of course, if money was no option, a titanium Salsa frame or Jones frame, that'd be cool. But another bad thing about the Gary Jones bike is, I'm sorry, about the Gary Fisher bike, is I wasn't happy that I couldn't replace the forks very easily. And I didn't really need the suspension forks. They're on my bike. And with the G2 suspension or G2 geometry, I just found it impossible to find a replacement. So enter in the Shirley Ogre. Now, Shirley makes some different frames. They have a lot of fat bikes that are starting to become very popular. I don't want to be crucified, but I think the fat bike thing seems kind of like a trend. I mean, I have a problem that my Commute is slower right now, I think due to my tires. I couldn't imagine commuting 450 kilometers a week on a fat bike. I'm sure your average speed would only be around 20 kilometers an hour or something. Somebody could correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. I mean, the utility and the strength of a fat bike looks appealing, but at the same time, the maneuverability and the weight does not seem like something that I enjoy that much. So while Shirley is becoming more popular for their fat bikes, I was drawn to Shirley, believe it or not. It had nothing to do with the marketing going on of the guy, of the bearded mechanic, whatever. I always knew about Shirley from their long haul truckers and the people that use their frames for touring. And that was what was appealing to me, was that so many people chose Shirley as a touring bike, and I wanted a bike that doesn't have any problems. So I was looking at that. Now, when you talk about the touring bike models, most popular with Shirley is a long haul trucker And then it goes, you have the Karate Monkey and the Straggler. The long road trucker is, what turned me off to that was 26-inch wheels, and I really like the 29-inch wheels. I personally can't imagine going to 26-inch wheels again in my life. I know the argument, and I know from experience that around here you're not going to find a lot of support for 29-inch rims. But I've never broken my rims. I've broken spokes before, but not on good wheel builds. So I know that the arguments between 29 and 26. So that's why I go with the Shirley Troll. I'm sorry, yeah. They have a nice world troller. Comes in sections. I didn't get that. Went with the Ogre. Now, to find the frame in China is impossible. The complete bike even more so. And I wanted to custom build my frame a little bit nicer than what comes stock. I would suggest to anybody, you know, build your own bike completely from scratch if you could afford it. In the long run, you'll save money and you'll get more of a customized bike. So I went ahead and I chose the Shirley Ogre. Now this was a difficult choice because I've honestly never seen one before, and I was nervous to buy a bike that I've never sat on or seen or got to ride on. That's just not an option when you live in different countries around the world. In fact, I mean, I had to search long and wide just to get the frame because Shirley has a policy of not mail ordering and selling local, which makes things difficult to do. So I had to search high and low, and I only found one frame, only one, in Hong Kong at Flying Ball Cycles, and it was a small frame. Now I'm 5'6" tall, which I forget how many meters that is, centimeters, whatever. And I was hoping, I did a lot of reading, that this small frame would fit me. And I you know, just for me to go to Hong Kong was very difficult. I found out there's only one frame. I had to have a friend of a friend, a student's parents that went to school with somebody in Hong Kong, went to the shop and bought the frame for me because, you know, I couldn't get to the shop before they closed, so they picked it up for me. The frame and the forks. And then I went down with my 4 kids through border inspection into Hong Kong. My kid's only second time ever leaving China, to go pick up the frame and bring it back through the border in the back of our old child's trailer. Now, luckily I didn't have to pay customs on it, and when we were bringing it back here, and the first thing that I noticed when I got that frame was, well, number one, I was so anxious. I wish I had all the other parts. And number two, it seems so small. I was so worried that when I put it together, it was going to be too small for me. Now, my last scary fish was like a 19 or something. It was actually a little bit too big for me, but for a commuter, a big frame, you could stretch out. You're not doing downhill stuff and mountain stuff, so it's okay to be a little bit big. But I thought it was going to be like way too small. So I went ahead and I got the small, and I ordered the parts from a lot of stuff from CRC. And by the time I got it put together, it was just right. It fits me awesome. So, and I really like it. I really like the fit. I'm so happy I didn't get a bigger size. And this is great for me. Now, speaking of the Shirley Ogre frame itself, the mounts on it are great. Let's talk about all the mounts and the options on the frame. The front fork holds up into a 203mm front rotor, and it's got lots of eyelets, so it makes mounting water bottle cages really easy, and mounting the front frame rack really easy. Shirley sells a hell of a tank looking front rack. Personally, I've never used a front rack before. And honestly, I never had water cages on my front fork before. And right now I run two on the front, and it sure is convenient to be able to reach down and grab them from the front and free up the down tube and stuff. It's very convenient, and I was able to mount the fenders. Planet Cascadia, well, Planet Cascadia was the only fenders that I could get to work on here. I'll talk about those fenders in a little bit, but they mount quite well on here with the use of what's called a fender flute. I'll talk about that too in a little bit. Now, if I was going to get a different fork, I would like to have the Jones Truss forks. Jones Truss has a steel and a titanium one. Of course, the titanium one would be awesome. It may be a future upgrade, but I don't know if that has mounts for water bottles or not on the front. It's not a necessity. These forks are awesome, but those truss forks are kind of cool. Just something to lust over, maybe. Boarding addiction, I don't know. But it's great. They're awesome now, and they accept fat tires. I don't run that fat tires myself, but if you're looking for running real fat tires, you know, Shirley says fatties fit fine, and they're all about the fat tire scene. So I want to worry about running any fat tires. So their compatibility is real good. Versus the rear disc rotor, it's not 200 size. You know, and I'm sorry, I'm not gonna be able to tell you that. What is it back? I forget, like a 160 or something for the rear disc. I didn't know that. I bought like two 200 Avid rotors for BB7, and I had to get a different rotor for the back. Not a big deal. There's mounts on the fork for V brakes or disc brakes. I'm running BB7s. Let's talk about that in a little bit. The cable routing and stuff is great on this bike. Powder coated frame, black, and there's an adapter that they gave me to run direct mount.